The planet of Velrun was known for many strange things, but nothing on it was more feared than the great Virax dragon. Every alien child grew up hearing stories about its glowing eyes, its teeth sharper than steel, and its roar that could shake mountains. Soldiers trained for years just to stand near the outer fence of its containment zone. Even then, they never stayed long. The dragon was a creature no one dared approach. Inside the high metal walls, the ground was burnt black from old fights. Broken machines lay in pieces, all destroyed by the dragon's claws. Whenever someone walked too close, the creature would rise from its resting place and let out a low growl that made the air vibrate. The aliens believed the dragon could not be tamed, touched, or reasoned with. It was simply dangerous. Too dangerous. On one calm morning, when the sky shimmered with two suns, a group of humans arrived on Velrun. They came to join a peace meeting between their species and the Alien Council. Among them was a small human girl named Mara. She had bright eyes, messy hair, and a habit of wandering away whenever she found something interesting. Her mother warned her many times to stay close, but curiosity often won. When the humans entered the council building, a guard stepped forward to greet them. He spoke about rules, safety, and restricted zones. Mara listened for a moment, then became bored. She spotted a small door at the side of the hall and quietly slipped through it. None of the adults noticed. The hallway she entered was silent, with long white lights and signs she did not understand. She walked with soft steps, touching each wall as she moved. At the end of the hallway, she saw another door, this one large, metal, and slightly open. A warm breeze came from inside, along with a deep rumbling sound. Mara peeked through the gap. She saw a huge space filled with dust and broken stone. In the middle of it, lying like a sleeping mountain, was the Virax dragon. Its scales shimmered like dark glass, and its long tail curled around piles of crushed metal. Its chest rose and fell with slow breaths that sounded like thunder. She blinked once, then twice. "That's the biggest lizard ever," she whispered. She stepped inside without fear, her small shoes crunching softly on the dusty ground. On the other side of the walls, alarms flashed red. A guard looked at his screen and froze. "A human child crossed the barrier," he shouted. The other guards turned pale. She went into the dragon zone. Sound the full alert. Get the parents. Someone stop her. But it was too late. Inside the enclosure, the dragon opened one eye. The pupil, thin like a blade, focused on the little human standing only a few meters away. The dragon lifted its head slowly, its breath blowing dust across the floor. Every muscle in its body tensed. It gave a low growl that made small stones near Mara tremble. The girl did not run. Instead, she smiled. "Hi, are you lonely?" she asked. The dragon's growl stopped for a moment. Its head tilted to the side, confused. No alien had ever spoken to it gently. They only shouted, aimed weapons, or hid behind shields. This small human did something strange. She walked even closer. Outside the walls, alien soldiers lined up with heavy shields. The council members panicked. The humans argued with them, shouting that Mara had to be saved immediately. No one knew what was happening inside. They imagined the worst. Inside, the dragon rose fully to its feet. It towered over Mara like a giant shadow. The heat from its breath blew her hair back. Its claws scraped the ground as it stepped closer. The ground trembled under its weight. Mara looked up, her neck bending back until she could see the dragon's sharp nose and glowing eyes. She did not scream, did not shake, and did not step back. She simply lifted her hand like someone greeting a friendly dog. "You look sad," she said softly. "Do you want a friend?" The dragon froze. Something in its ancient mind paused, confused by the gentle voice, the open hand, the lack of fear. It lowered its head just a little. Mara reached up with both hands to wipe away some dust on its nose. Her fingers brushed the dragon's scales. The dragon did not attack. The dragon did not roar. Instead, it went still, completely still, as if her touch had shut down every instinct for violence. Mara giggled. "You're warm." Outside, the soldiers watched the giant screen showing the dragon lowering its head toward a tiny human child. They expected to see claws or fire. Instead, They saw something impossible. The dragon stayed still, eyes soft, while the child gently touched its nose. The aliens in the control room stared in disbelief. No one spoke. No one moved. They all froze, unable to understand how a small human girl had walked up to the deadliest creature on their world and made it calm. Mara stood beside the great Virax dragon, her small hand resting gently on its warm scales. The dragon's breath came out in long, deep waves, like a creature unsure what to do next. It had never been this close to anyone who wasn't holding a weapon or shouting commands. Now it was face to face with a tiny human girl who smiled at it as if it were simply a big, lonely animal. Outside the enclosure, alarms continued to flash. Soldiers argued, leaders shouted orders, and Mara's mother called out her daughter's name again and again. But none of that sound reached the silent space where the child and the dragon studied each other. Mara could feel the dragon's nose vibrate under her hand. "You don't scare me," she whispered. Maybe it was the innocence in her voice, or maybe it was the softness of her touch, but the dragon slowly lowered its head to the ground, bringing its huge glowing eyes level with hers. Mara stepped even closer, until she was standing so near that she could feel its warm breath on her cheeks. She giggled. "You're like a big furnace." The dragon blinked once. The sound it made wasn't a growl this time. It was something lighter and curious, like a deep hum. It tilted its head, as though trying to understand the small creature that dared to come near without fear. In the control room, soldiers stared at the screens in disbelief. "She's touching it," one whispered. "And it's letting her," another said. This shouldn't be possible." Mara suddenly crouched down and tapped the ground twice. "Come here. I want to see your eyes properly." The dragon's giant head moved slowly, almost obediently. It lowered itself further, placing its chin on the floor. Dust rose around it. Mara reached out and touched the dragon's cheek. "You're not scary," she said confidently. "You're just misunderstood." Her voice was steady in a way most grown adults couldn't manage in front of such a dangerous creature. Where others saw claws and teeth, she saw a lonely being. Where others felt fear, she felt curiosity. And that was her fearless heart. But the dragon wasn't the only one watching. On the other side of the thick glass window, an alien guard named Raleigh stared in shock. Earlier in the day, he had laughed when someone asked if humans were brave. Now, he couldn't even speak. He watched as Mara moved around the dragon with no hesitation, touching its scales, leaning against its warm side, even poking its tail with interest. At one point, Mara stumbled on a loose stone and fell forward. The guards gasped. The humans screamed. A few soldiers reached for emergency controls, but the dragon reacted first. It slid its tail under Mara and lifted her gently before she could hit the ground. For a heartbeat, everyone watching froze. The dragon helped her. Mara blinked, sitting on the dragon's soft, scaled tail. Then she burst into laughter. "You caught me. Thank you." The dragon puffed out a warm breath, and a low rumble echoed through the room. It sounded almost like a pleased purr. Outside, the alien council panicked. "This is too dangerous. That creature is unpredictable. The child must be removed immediately." The humans refused. "Look at the screen," one human diplomat said. "If you try to take her by force, you'll scare the dragon. She's safe as long as you stay calm." But calm was hard to keep when a dragon was acting like a protective guardian. Inside the enclosure, Mara climbed down from the dragon's tail and walked toward its giant wings. She touched the tough membrane gently. "You're so big," she said, "but I think you're gentle. No one ever tried to see that, right?" The dragon lowered its head again, almost as if it agreed. Mara sat cross-legged on the ground. "Do you want to be friends?" It wasn't a question anyone else would dare ask. The dragon lifted its head, looked at her for a long moment, then brought its massive snout close and nudged her softly. It was a tiny push of the dragon, but Mara rolled backward laughing. "I'll take that as a yes." Outside, the crowd erupted in whispers and shock. She befriended it. Impossible. No creature like that chooses friends. Mara stood up and pressed her forehead gently to the dragon's nose. "I'm not scared of you," she said. You're not a monster." The dragon let out a long, deep breath that blew her hair up like a wild wind. But she stayed standing, smiling with her eyes closed. She trusted it completely. And for some mysterious reason, the dragon seemed to trust her too. No roar, no fire, no danger, only acceptance. And just when everyone outside thought they had seen everything, the dragon did something that made the planet go silent. It curled its massive body around a tiny girl. Not to trap her, but to shield her, as if she were something precious. Mara placed her hand on its warm scales and whispered, "I think you're just lonely. I'm here now." The dragon closed its eyes. A child's fearless heart had done what no weapon, soldier, or scientist had ever achieved. She had given the deadliest dragon friend. The news spread across the planet faster than any ship or message ever had. A child, a small human girl, had touched the deadliest dragon alive. Not only touched it, but calmed it, comforted it, and earned its trust. For the first time in history, the unstoppable creature had lowered its head instead of raising its claws. People everywhere struggled to understand what they had seen. In cities far from the dragon facility, giant screens replayed the moment. The image of Mara pressing her forehead to the dragon's nose appeared again and again, while crowds gathered in silent shock. Aliens of all shapes and colors stood together, whispering. Is she using some secret human power? No, she just walked up to it. Impossible. That creature destroys armies. Some were angry. They shouted that it must be fake. They claimed the humans staged everything. Others were frightened, wondering if the dragon now obeyed humans. But many more simply stared with wide eyes, trying to make sense of what their world had become overnight. In the high tower of the Alien Council, leaders sat in a circle of glowing seats. They replayed the footage again. Each time, the room fell into tense silence. She touched it, one counselor said slowly. A creature feared for centuries, and it bent its head like a pet. It reacted to her kindness, another added, though she didn't sound convinced herself. Maybe the dragon is not what we believed. Or maybe the human child is more dangerous than the dragon. Voices rose in confusion. The council had never been so divided. Some wanted Mara removed from the enclosure immediately. Some wanted her protected. Some even suggested she become a symbol of peace. Others feared that she would become a threat. While the council argued, the world outside whispered. For the first time in generations, ordinary people began asking questions they had been too scared to think of before. Were we wrong about dragons? Are they really monsters? What if they understand more than we thought? What if humans see things differently from us? At schools, teachers struggled to answer students' questions. Children kept raising their hands, excited and confused. If a kid can touch a dragon, a young alien asked, why can't we? If the dragon didn't hurt her, another said, does that mean we hurt dragons first? Teachers exchanged awkward looks. They didn't have answers. Everything they had taught for years suddenly felt uncertain. Even soldiers, the ones trained to fear dragons, felt the shift. Many stood in groups, staring at the video on their tablets. She didn't even flinch. One said, she's braver than our entire squad. No kid should walk up to something like that. But she did. In the Dragon Research Center, scientists were the most confused of all. They ran endless tests on the footage, analyzing Mara's movements, the dragon's breathing patterns, the frequency of its growls, the tilt of its head. Every time, the results were the same. Nothing supernatural happened. Nothing scientific explained the moment. It was simply a meeting between a child with an open heart and a creature the world misunderstood. Meanwhile, Mara remained inside the enclosure, sitting comfortably against the dragon's warm side. The creature stayed curled around her, its tail resting protectively like a giant living wall. Every time someone came too close, the dragon opened one eye, a silent warning. But Mara didn't notice any of the attention. She scratched its scales gently and talked to it like a good friend. You were just lonely, weren't you? No one wanted to sit with you. I felt like that once too. The dragon listened. Every now and then, it let out a low rumble, and Mara smiled as if they were speaking the same language. Outside the glass, more and more people gathered. Some pressed their faces to the window, hoping to see the child who changed everything. Others stood far back, still frightened. Reporters from different planets sent messages across galaxies. The story reached worlds that had never even heard of humans before. And everywhere, the same question echoed. Why did the dragon choose her? The alien queen herself visited the facility, walking with quiet steps. She stared long and hard at Mara, sitting peacefully with the dragon. Her guards were tense, ready to pull her away if the creature moved. But the dragon only flicked its tail and huffed softly, like a giant cat annoyed by too many visitors. The queen whispered to her advisor, "We build our society on the belief that these creatures could not think or feel. If that was wrong, everything changes." The advisor nodded slowly. "The people already feel it. They are questioning everything we have taught." For the first time in centuries, the planet wasn't controlled by fear. It was controlled by curiosity, by wonder, by a tiny human girl who did not know she was causing so much trouble. Mara finally glanced at the glass wall and saw the huge crowd outside. She waved happily. The dragon followed her gaze and let out a deep, echoing sound, not a growl, but something closer to pride. The crowd stepped back in shock. Some started recording. Some whispered. Some stared with their mouths open. The world wasn't just questioning everything now. The world was changing because of a child and a dragon who understood each other better than anyone else ever had. The scientists worked day and night after the strange event. They gathered around their screens, studying every detail of the dragon's behavior. They slowed the video, zoomed in, played it backwards, even checked sound frequencies. But no matter what they tried, they found nothing strange or hidden. The dragon had reacted to Mara like a friend, like someone it trusted. The truth felt close, but none of them could understand it yet. Inside the enclosure, Mara sat with the dragon again. She rested her small hand on its huge nose as she spoke softly to it. The dragon's eyes stayed half-closed, peaceful and calm. It breathed slowly, matching the rhythm of her voice. Mara did not know she was the center of a growing storm. She only felt that the dragon was lonely, and she wanted to keep it company. Outside the glass wall, more experts arrived. Elders from far planets, biologists, soldiers, and historians stood in long lines, waiting to observe the pair. Some watched with fear. Some watched with curiosity. A few watched with open anger, because the world they believed in was changing too fast. One old historian whispered, "Dragons once lived freely across galaxies. Ancient stories say they spoke with their minds. We always thought those stories were lies." A scientist beside him replied, "Maybe humans can hear what we cannot." The idea shocked many, but no one dared to disagree because they had no better answers. Later that day, the alien queen stepped inside the observation room again. She moved slowly, studying the dragon with sharp eyes. She remembered her childhood lessons. Dragons were monsters. They destroyed planets. They could not think, feel, or form bonds. But the creature in front of her was protecting a child with gentle care. It made her question everything she had believed. "Why does it stay calm only with her?" she asked the chief researcher. "We still don't know," he said, "but we found something unusual." He tapped the screen, and an image appeared. It showed the dragon's brain activity when Mara touched it. The lines glowed in soft, rising waves, patterns that looked almost like music. This brain pattern only appears when the dragon senses something familiar, the researcher explained. "Something safe." "Familiar?" the queen repeated. "How can a human child be familiar to a creature older than our entire empire?" The researcher shook his head. "We don't know, but when she touches it, the dragon's fear center fully shuts down. This has never happened before." The queen stared at the screen in silence. Meanwhile, inside the enclosure, something new happened. Mara noticed a strange scar under the dragon's scales. It was long and old, stretching across its chest. She gently touched the mark. "What happened to you?" she asked softly. The dragon made a slow, deep sound, not angry, not painful, but sad. It pulled its head closer to her, as if trying to show her something important. Mara leaned in and whispered, "It's okay. I'm here." At that moment, the dragon's memories flashed across its eyes. Scientists watching from the other side saw a strange glow pulse through its scales. Sensors beeped loudly. Everyone froze. "What is that?" a guard shouted. But the researcher's voice slowly grew quieter, filled with surprise. I think the dragon is trying to communicate." The dragon lowered its head until it touched the floor. Its breaths became slow and controlled. A soft hum filled the enclosure. On the monitors, strange symbols began appearing, patterns the machines had never detected before. The queen watched in awe. "Is this language?" "No," said the scientist. "It's more than language. It's memory." The room fell silent as the symbols came together, forming images. They showed a sky filled with giant dragons. They showed humans standing beside them, unafraid. They showed old battles, old alliances, old friendships. And then, the most shocking image of all, humans riding dragons through space, guiding them, comforting them, leading them. The scientists gasped. The researchers covered their mouths. The queen stepped back in shock. "This cannot be true," she whispered. But the dragon continued sharing its memories. More images appeared, humans and dragons working together to protect planets, children playing with small dragon hatchlings, families sitting near campfires with dragons curled around them like warm guardians. The old historian trembled. This is proof that dragons and humans once lived together. They were partners, not enemies. The truth hit everyone at once. Dragons were not monsters. Dragons were not mindless. Dragons were never wild killers. They were ancient, intelligent, and loyal. And they remembered humans. The dragon lifted its head and gently pressed its nose against Mara's shoulder, as if telling the world, "This child reminds me of the humans who were once our friends." Mara, not understanding the deep meaning behind the moment, only smiled and hugged its giant snout. "You're not bad," she said softly. "You're just scared. Everyone gets scared." The dragon closed its eyes, leaning into her touch. Outside the enclosure, the world watched the truth unfold. A truth older than empires, older than fear, older than history books. Humans and dragons were connected. The beast everyone feared was only lonely, and the child everyone underestimated was the only one who could reveal its past. The world would never be the same again. The day of the first flight arrived quietly, without celebration or bright lights. No one dared to make a loud announcement. The world was still trying to understand what had happened. How a human child had changed everything, how a creature feared for centuries had shown trust, and how old memories had returned like forgotten stars. Mara sat near the dragon that morning, brushing its warm scales with her small hands. The dragon lay peacefully, breathing slow and deep. Its wings rested beside her like huge folded blankets. She whispered, "Are you ready?" The dragon opened one glowing eye. It was not angry, not confused, only calm. It gave a low rumble, the sound it used when answering her. Outside the enclosure, guards stood in two long lines. Scientists checked wind levels, shield strength, and emergency systems again and again. No one wanted to make a mistake. The queen herself stood in front, watching closely, trying not to show her nervousness. When Mara stepped out with the dragon behind her, everyone fell silent. They had seen the dragon calm before, but this time something was different. The creature moved with a soft confidence, never once lifting its claws in defense. Its giant wings rested low, making it look smaller, gentler. Mara placed her hand on its side, and the dragon leaned slightly toward her, almost like a giant pet. The queen finally spoke. "Child," she said gently, "you understand we only wish to observe. You do not have to fly with it if you feel unsafe." Mara shook her head. "It would never hurt me." The queen swallowed slowly. She believed it now, but hearing it from a child still felt strange. The scientist in charge lifted his tablet. "We are only asking for a short flight. A rise, a circle, and a gentle landing. Nothing more." Mara nodded. The dragon, sensing the moment, stretched its wings for the first time in many years. The sudden wind made several guards step back. Dust swirled around them. The sun struck the dragon's scales, making them shine like liquid gold. When Mara climbed onto its back, the entire world seemed to stop. People held their breaths. Cameras floated silently. The queen pressed her hands together. Everyone wondered the same thing. Would it truly let her ride it? Would this be the moment that changed history forever? Mara sat near the base of its neck, her fingers curling around a smooth ridge of scales. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's go." The dragon crouched low, muscles tightening like coiled springs. Its wings opened wide, spreading out like shadows bigger than buildings. And then it jumped. The ground fell away. Air rushed past. The wings beat once, twice, and the world beneath them shrank. The dragon rose higher, moving with strength and grace, carrying the human child peacefully on its back. Gasps filled the observation field. Some alien soldiers dropped their weapons in shock. Others simply stared, unable to understand how something so dangerous could look so gentle in the sky. Mara laughed softly as the dragon glided through the air. The wind played with her hair. The dragon tilted slightly so she could see the horizon. Far below, the land shone with green forests and silver rivers. Birds scattered, but not in fear. They moved around the dragon as if greeting an old sky king. The dragon made a deep sound, a sound full of joy, full of freedom. Mara felt it in her chest. She leaned forward and whispered, "You're free. No more cages." The dragon responded with a smooth, powerful climb, rising high enough that the clouds brushed their faces. It wasn't flying to escape. It wasn't flying to attack. It was flying because it finally could. After a long, peaceful circle through the sky, the dragon lowered itself, gliding slowly toward the ground. The landing was gentle, so gentle that Mara barely felt it. Its wings folded neatly, and it lowered its head so she could climb down. When her feet touched the ground, the world did not cheer. No one made noise. Instead, every person present slowly bowed their heads in respect to Mara and to the dragon. The queen stepped forward. Her voice shook, not with fear, but with awe. "We have lived in darkness for generations," she said softly. "We feared legends. We believed false stories. But today, this child and this dragon showed us a new truth." She approached the dragon at a careful pace. The dragon watched her, but did not pull back. When she placed her hand on its nose, it allowed the touch. She whispered, "Thank you for trusting us." The dragon blinked slowly. Mara smiled. "It likes you now." The queen actually laughed. A small, surprised laugh, the kind she had forgotten she could make. Around them, tension faded. Soldiers lowered their weapons fully. Scientists put away their scanners. Everyone knew the world had changed in a way no one could explain, but everyone could feel. The first peaceful flight was not just a test. It was a promise. A promise that humans and dragons could walk the skies together again. A promise that fear could become friendship. A promise that old wounds could finally heal. And in the center of it all stood a child and a dragon, quiet, calm, and unafraid, showing a galaxy what peace could look like.